This right here is a MIDI foot controller that you program with a touchscreen. You don't need an app or a computer or anything like that. You program it all on the device itself, and it has a ton of different inputs and outputs that you can configure in here. That in itself is already really cool. But on top of that, you can also expand on it with these relatively inexpensive foot switches, either 6 or 10. They can connect to it wired or wirelessly. And on top of that even, you can expand upon it even more with these little controllers right here. These are wireless controllers that can send messages to the controller itself. So this is an XY pad. You can go up, down, left, right, or in and send those messages to the MIDI controller. Or you also have this guy right here, which is able to twist and scroll through MIDI messages. You can also push buttons and send MIDI messages as well. These are all MIDI controllers by Luminite FX. There is so much that this MIDI controller can do. You might be looking at how long this video is. Yes, the video really is that long, and I still feel like I didn't scratch the surface of everything that this MIDI controller can do. Just FYI, if you know nothing about MIDI programming, you're going to get lost in this video. You'll be able to see what this device is capable of doing, so you can still follow along, but I'm not going to go over what is a program change, what is a controller change, and stuff like that. I have a whole video going over that. If you're brand new to MIDI, you should watch that video. Also, I do want to say thanks to the subscriber who recommended this to me. I looked through my comment section. I could not find who recommended this system to me, but I do want to say thank you because this is one of the coolest MIDI controllers I've ever used. I actually personally reached out to Luminite FX and they agreed to send me these to try out for the channel. This is not a paid video or anything like that. All the opinions in this video are my own, and I sincerely believe this is one of the most versatile, easy to use, and best MIDI foot controllers that I've ever used. I don't even know if I can call it just a foot controller because of all the different things that you can expand upon it with. And also, I will be doing a giveaway at the end of this video for one of my subscribers. So don't forget to subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and let's go ahead and get started. I am going to start with some of the more boring stuff first, just to get the initial setup going, and then we'll start programming it. So let's go ahead and check this out. So first, let me just do a quick overview of the products that you have as options here. This is the M2. This is the main one that I'm going to be using for this demo. I'll go over the ins and outs here in a minute, but you can see that there's 6 different buttons and you program it with the touchscreen. This is the M1. There's no physical buttons on it, but you still program it and you can control it with some of the other devices. You'll see what I mean here in a minute. You also have this 6-button foot switch. This one happens to be wireless, or you can connect it physically. They also have just a wired option as well, but this will connect to either of the main hubs, which are the M2 and the M1. You also have a 10-button foot switch. Same idea, could be wireless or wired. Now on top of that, what's really cool is you have this XY pad, and you can push either of these buttons up, down, left, or right, or in. And you can also double tap or triple tap for a total of 15 different control options on each button. You also have this encoder, and you can see that this has a way that you can turn, so you can scroll, and you can also push buttons on it. And they did recently come out with the relay and CV control. So the M2 and the M1 are kind of the main hubs, and then how much do you want to expand on it? So for this video, for the most part, I'm going to focus on just these 4 right here. The M2 is going to be the main one that I use with the 6-button foot switch, and then the XY controller and the EC controller. I'll also show you how to connect this with an expression pedal as well, but what I go over will still apply to the other products as well. So let's go over the main ins and outs first. I'm going to do this on the M2 because I think this is the one that most people are going to be interested in. So you can see you have 6 buttons. Over here on the left side, you have 5-pin MIDI in and out ports. But then up here on the top, you have quite a bit of stuff. This can be powered either with 9-volt center negative power or with USB-C power. You have 4 different 1/4-inch TRS spots, and I'll show you how to program this for all the different features that it has. You have a control voltage 1/4-inch. You have a relay 1/4-inch. You also have MIDI in and out 3.5 millimeter TRS, and you also have a USB-A slot for controlling stuff with USB MIDI. Quite a bit of options in here, and it gets even crazier when you go in and program what you want each of these spots to do, especially for like the 1/4-inch inputs. So I am going to power this with USB-C, and the cable is provided. And when you first turn it on, it's going to look like this. Let's just do a few general setups first. Again, we're getting the boring things out of the way first, and then we'll start programming. So it's the touch screen, so go ahead and push this back arrow right here. I want you to go down to Settings and click on Settings, and then click this page button right here. The first thing I want you to do is I want you to update to the latest firmware and make sure you're on the latest one. This is actually really cool. You can just follow the instructions on here, but what you do, you can update to the beta version if you want to try some of the new features, or just the stable version, which you should do if you're doing live gigs. But this is really cool. It's scanning for Wi-Fi networks. So once it finds your Wi-Fi network, you just log in and then you just click update, and it updates with Wi-Fi. You don't have to connect it to your computer. You don't have to download anything. It just connects over Wi-Fi. Very, very cool cool and very convenient. I love that it has that. Now, the next thing you want to do, if you use any of the extra devices, you're going to want to connect them. So on that same page, you're going to click on wireless. I'm going to connect the wireless foot switch first. Now, it gives you 10 different slots to connect 10 different foot switches if you wanted to, but I'm just going to go ahead and connect to this first one, and it gives you instructions of exactly what to do. So I'm going to follow the instructions, hold these two buttons. I'm going to do this in real time just so you can see how long it takes. It's not very long, but you do want to hold it for a second. And now it is paired. You can see that's already connected. I'm going to do the same thing for the XY and EC controllers. So in this first slot, I'm going to put the XY controller. It tells you which way to hold it. So X, Y facing up, and follow the instructions, and it's paired. Let's do another one for the EC controller. Click EC controller, hold the two buttons down for a few seconds, and now it is paired. So now all of these devices are communicating with each other. And all three of these do charge with USB-C. There's no on or off switch. It'll just automatically go to sleep after a certain amount of time, which makes it really convenient. But if you ever do want to charge them after a show, it just charges with USB-C, and they all have built-in batteries. Very, very cool. Okay, so the initial setup is done. Let's start actually programming patches. So let's go back, and you have your options of either preset library or MIDI editor. These are the main ways to program it. I actually personally like to be in preset library, and I'll just show you the way that I do it, but you can do it in multiple ways. So under the preset library, you can see you have 10 different presets right here. And when I click these bottom three buttons, you can see it selects presets 6, 7, and 8. And then these top three will trigger between 1, 2, and 3. So the way that I like to do this is you can actually hold down on the preset, and you can see you can edit, rename, copy, swap, and stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and hit edit preset. And just like it says, push the plus button to add some MIDI messages. You can see we've added a MIDI message in here. In order to edit it, I'm just going to tap it, and you can see I can start making changes. So what type of MIDI command do I want to change? Do I want to send a control change, a program change, a note change, all sorts of different options. Control change, program change, and note change are probably the most common ones. So let's just go ahead and do a program change. What number do I want to do? So I either have this option where I can just scroll through and push one of the buttons, or I click up here and change it to the keypad mode and just type in what program change I want to send. So let's say program 100, hit OK. And I can also choose what channel do I want to send that program change out. So program change 16 or program change 4. And this also I really like because I can click this button right here and I can rename the MIDI channel. So for me, the way that I'm going to demo this is my HX stomp is what's going to read on MIDI channel 4. So instead of saying MIDI channel 4, I can actually just say Helix because everything that I want to control with my Helix is going to go out on MIDI channel 4. Very convenient. So now you can see it'll either say the channel number or it'll say the name of it, which can be very, very helpful. Now you can see under preset 1, I'm going to send on MIDI channel 4 a program change of 100. Now I want to add another command. So on this one, I'm going to push the plus symbol. Now it's added another command. Let's go in here, do the exact same thing. So let's say I want to send a note command. What note do I want to send? So let's say note number 42 and what velocity? 127. On MIDI channel 16, say if I'm controlling lighting or something like that. You see the idea here? Yes, you keep adding, and I can now send, a controller change. And you can also do, controller change up, so it'll count up by 1, or toggling CC. You have all sorts of different options in here. I'm not going to demo every single one, but a lot of MIDI commands that you have in here, you can assign. So let's just say a MIDI toggle, MIDI CC 50 on MIDI channel 13. I don't know. I'm just showing you how you can program this. Again, if you understand MIDI, all of this should definitely be making sense, but do you see how easy it is to program with the touch screen? I really like that. So now under preset 1, it's going to send all 3 of these commands when I load preset 1. I could also hold one of them and I can, disable it or move it around and reorder it for some reason if I needed to. I could also delete a patch if I wanted to by pushing the minus key. Also, there is MIDI clock on this preset. So I can set the MIDI clock BPM. I mean, there's so many things that you can do in here. It's really crazy. You can also set it to toggle mode, off or on. So you can see it'll switch between different ones when I push it, or momentary, where if I push down on it, it will do the first one and then I let go and it'll send the next one. I mean, the versatility with this thing is just insane. Also, you can see I can have multiple pages of this. So let me just add a bunch of blank ones in here. Now I can add more and it goes down to the next page, and I can scroll up and down between the pages here. You have so many different commands that you can send through here. I'm just going to go ahead and delete this. I'm just showing you how easy it is to program on this pedal. Now let me go ahead and give the preset a name. So I'm just going to call it test 1 or something like that. And then I'm going to name some of these other presets presets as well. So for this demo, I'm just going to pretend like they're different songs or something like that. So I'm going to call this one 500 miles. Go in here, do the exact same thing that we just did, edit the preset, start adding control changes, program changes, whatever you want to do when you push this button. I'm not going to do all of this on screen. Again, I think you understand so far. I can also hold it and I can also swap it with another preset or move it to another preset so I can copy and paste it. So swap it with number 5 and now it's over here at number 5. I can reset it. I can change the color of it. There's so much versatility with this. So just FYI, if you do want to use MIDI editor mode, so if I go back here, you can see I can click around on each of the buttons and then I can start editing in each of those. So that is another way to do it. I just personally prefer the other method of the preset library and then holding in order to get into the presets and making edits. So I'm going to do a bunch of programming off screen and I'll show you a demo of this working. So this is the way I'm going to demo it, but again, you can control whatever MIDI devices you want. So like I mentioned, my HX Stomp is set to read on MIDI channel 4. I'm also going to control my SPDSX sample pad, which is going to read on MIDI channel 10. And I'm also going to control Stage Tracks 3, which is the main app that I use live for lyrics and backing tracks. And that's going to be on MIDI channel 12. As far as the connections, for the SPDSX, I just used the standard 5-pin MIDI, so MIDI out of the M2 into the MIDI in of the SPDSX sample pad. Now with the HX Stomp, I was actually going to use it with the WIDI system, which is a wireless MIDI solution. I've reviewed a ton of their products. They do a really good job with wireless MIDI. Now, normally what you have to do is you have to connect 2 of them, but it actually automatically paired with the M2. So the WIDI jack will actually automatically pair with the M2, which is pretty cool. I just plugged it in and automatically is working. So it's already connected. And then with Stage Tracks, I'm actually connecting to it wirelessly with Bluetooth because the M2 also has the option of connecting with Bluetooth MIDI. There's just so much versatility with this unit. It's really cool. But you do have to configure a few things in here first. I do want to show you that. So you want to go under your settings and go to your settings. And here you want to click on MIDI and it'll bring you to this menu right here. Now by default, they're actually going to look like this. These are going to be enabled. So if it's white, that means it's going to be enabled. And if it's off, that means it's going to be disabled. So with the MIDI ports, do you want to send MIDI out, receive MIDI in, use MIDI through, or use MIDI clock through those ports? Same thing with USB MIDI and same thing with Bluetooth MIDI. So for me, I'm actually not using MIDI clock at all. So I'm just going to disable all of that. And I'm not sending any MIDI in to the M2. So I'm just going to disable that. I'm using the M2 as my main hub and I'm sending it out all of those ports. So that's the way that I'm going to configure it. You might configure it differently, but you want to go in here and make sure that it's set up properly. Now, if I was using any of the TRS outputs, you can see I can select between the 4 different TRS slots, as well as the 1/8" 3.5 millimeter output. But let's go back to TRS 1, and I can select, is this going to be a MIDI out? Is this a foot switch in, an expression in? So if I was going to use the foot switch wired, which you can do, you would set that to foot switch in. So that's how you would configure that. You can also set as a TRS switch out, a relay adapter out, CV out, or if you're sending MIDI out. And you also can choose what type of MIDI, type A, type B. That might be a little bit confusing. So if you connect this and it is not working, try changing these and see if that fixes it. But you do want to just make sure that whatever you have connected to it is configured properly. USB MIDI I will come back to later. And then Bluetooth MIDI, this is how I was able to connect to Stage Tracks. So you go in here and you turn advertising on so that you are able to connect to a tablet like my iPad. I do a lot of consulting calls for MIDI programming, which I do offer. I have links down below in the description. 90% of the time, there is some sort of configuration that is wrong, and that's why your MIDI isn't working. So make sure that these are set properly. So just for this example, I just used 3 different songs, 500 Miles, Amarillo by Morning, and Bad Touch. I'm going to want different drum pads, different guitar patches, and obviously different lyrics for each song. This is the way that I have it programmed, just as an example of what it can do. So I push this first button, that's for 500 miles, and watch what happens to all 3 systems. You can see the SPDSX loaded the acoustic pad. It changed to my clean and dirty patch on my HX Stomp, and it also loaded the lyrics for 500 miles on Stage Tracks. All 3 of these changed with 1 button push. Next, when I go to Amarillo by Morning, again, watch all 3. You can see now that I've loaded the brush drum pad, I've loaded the mandolin patch that I have on my HX Stomp, and it has loaded the lyrics for Amarillo by Morning. And one more, when I load Bad Touch, you can see it's loaded the electronic kit, it's loaded a different patch on my HX Stomp, and it's it's loaded the lyrics for Bad Touch. And also just to show you as well that I've programmed these bottom 3 down here to control the 3 buttons on my HX Stomp. So this will load button 2, 3, back to 2, and 1. So again, that's just how I'm demoing that I'm controlling multiple units. You can apply this to whatever you are trying to control as long as it's controllable with MIDI. But man, this thing is cool and so easy to program with that touch screen. And I haven't even gotten to expanding with the Footswitches and the XY and the EC controllers and stuff like that. But even just as a standalone, this MIDI device is just really cool and so versatile. Really love it. If you guys are finding this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button. It truly does help support the channel. But now let's go on to some of the accessories. So I'm going to go over all of these, but let's start with the Footswitch first. I love wireless. I'm going to do this wirelessly. But just remember, you can connect this to one of the TRS ports as well if you don't want to use this wirelessly. So you can see right now, it's basically just mimicking what the Footswitches on the M2 do. So let's go ahead and configure this. So you're going to go back and you're going to go to Devices, and I'm going to configure Footswitch pedals. So you can see what each of these 6 buttons are doing right now. So if I want to edit them, so what I want the upper left one to do, I'm going to hold it and I'm going to assign the action. So in this case, I want it to load a preset. I have a couple of different options here, but I'm going to do bank preset. And which one do I want to load? The 4th one in this case. I'll show you a little bit more of what the difference between bank and fixed presets mean here in a little bit. So now let's go back home, the preset library, and you can see that the top 3 buttons on the M2 will load 1, 2, and 3. So now the next one is going to load preset 4. That's what I want. So let's keep programming. So let's go to the devices, Footswitch controllers. Now I want this middle top button. I'm going to hold that. What do I want that to do? I'm going to have that be the 5th preset. This bottom left button, I want that one to be the 9th preset, and the bottom center one, I want that to be the 10th preset. That's the way I want to have it configured. So now I have access to all 10 presets on the page. So you can see how it's working right now. This is the way that I personally would have it set up. Now, what about these last 2 buttons over here? Well, I want to use those to change banks, to go up and down between the banks. Again, let's go to the devices, this top one. I want to change bank, and I want to have this go up the bank. This bottom one, I want that to go down a bank. And again, you can see all the different options in here that you have for configurations. This is just the way that I personally would configure this. So now when we go back, I have access to all my different presets on the first bank. But if I want to go up and push this button, now I'm on bank 2. Now I'm on bank 3, now I'm on bank 4, all the way up to 12, and I can go back down. Now here's what's cool, is that this first button right here will still load the most upper left preset. So preset 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, and so on and so forth. So it'll match with whatever it is on those banks. So if I go down to bank 7, and I click here, now it loads preset 69, preset 70, and so on and so forth, which is pretty cool. So the difference between bank preset and fixed preset, so if I go in here and change it to a fixed preset, it will always just load a specific preset. If I have it programmed that way, I go back here. These work as normal, but then when I push this new one, it loads Footswitch 3, as you can see right here. So that's the difference between bank preset and fixed preset. It's up to you on how you want to program it. A lot of versatility in this. So I'm actually just going to put that back to the 10th preset because that makes the most sense. But you can see you have all sorts of different options of what you want to program the Footswitches to do. We went over the presets. You can do banks. You can do different things between the banks. You can go to a specific bank. You can have it go shortcuts, so it always just loads the preset library, for example, which is pretty cool. Now, even on top of that, you can click up here, see where it says first tap. You have all of these other configurations for each of the buttons. First tap, second tap, third tap, hold, double tap, and release. It's just so crazy how much control you can get. So let's say on the second tap, I want to go up a preset. So now when I push this button, it'll load preset 60 like normal, but then I push it again and it goes up a preset. So it went to preset 61. You can do so much with this thing, but you can do a double tap or hold and release. Just so crazy the versatility you get with this. But yeah, that's how you program the Footswitch. Okay, next up is the XY controller. This one's really cool. But for this one, so you go back to devices and you're going to go to the XY controllers. And it gives you this screen. And this is actually the screen that I prefer if I'm going to use an XY pad like this. So you can see when I push up on the left one, it loads 500 miles. I push down and it loads Bad Touch. Go to the left, it loads preset 4. Go to the right, it loads Amarillo. It makes the most sense visually. Same with over here on the right one. Whichever way I push, it goes to that one. That's why I like this screen. And I can also go up and down banks by pushing it, which is really cool. You should be able to guess how you edit these actually. So instead of loading Footswitch 2, I'm going to hold this, and what would I like it to do? Just in the same way it was with the Footswitches, and just in the same way with the Footswitches, I can also do first tap, second tap, third tap, hold, double tap, or release. All of those work on this pad as well. So let's say when I double tap it, I want it to go to a fixed preset of preset 120. So now when I tap it over, it loads preset Footswitch 2 the first time, and then double tap it and it loads preset 120. Again, if you understood how the Footswitches were programmed, all of this should make sense now. So that one definitely makes a lot of sense. The EC controller is a little bit different though, so don't get ahead of me yet. So this thing is really cool because you can use a knob and scroll up and down, as well as push the button as well. So this one's a little bit different. So let's go back to devices. We're going to go to EC controllers. And now it's on this screen right here. And you can see when I turn it, you can see that it's selecting different ones on the M2. And also when I push it, you can see that it's triggering these center ones, although they're currently set to none. Now those are pretty easy. Push the button and set it to, go up and down a bank or something like that. Those are just like everything else that we've programmed. So you can see I'm scrolling up and down the banks now. However, the encoder takes a little bit more to set up. So I'm going to show you an example of how you might use this. So I'm going to demo this on my trusty HX Stomp. So let me just go to a blank preset here. I'm going to go to preset 4 because I haven't programmed anything in there yet. I'm going to add block of MIDI data. Then this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to this third page and I'm going to set it as an encoder. For right now, don't even worry about everything else. Just know encoder channel is currently set to all because I will change that here in a little bit. But first we have encoder. And then I'm going to add another command. In this case, I'm going to say control change 102, just kind of choosing a random one. And this one is going to be on MIDI channel 4 because remember, that's what my HX Stomp responds to. So now you can see when I move the wheel, you can see that the value is changing on control change 102. The value is going up and down as I twist this knob. I could also set it to program change, and you can see I'm actually scrolling through patches now on my HX Stomp. See how it's moving? That changes the patches on my HX Stomp, which is pretty cool. That's an easy way to automatically assign it, and the encoder is just working right here. I am going to change this though, and in this case, I'm going to send a control change. This is not a lesson on how to program the Helix with MIDI. I do have multiple videos going over that on my channel. But what I'm going to do is I want this encoder to control the amount of decay of the plate reverb. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the plate reverb decay to read on MIDI channel 102. And back over here, I'm going to set the encoder, or the block after the encoder, to send controller change 102. And now you can see as I'm moving the encoder, it's moving the plate reverb decay up and down, which is pretty cool. You can make it go faster or slower by changing the steps at that previous menu that I was talking about. So if you want it to go faster, bring the steps up higher, but this is working for me for what I need. Now I have two encoders, so I might as well do it with two different effects, right? Well, I'm going to also affect the low cut of the plate reverb. I'm going to do that with MIDI CC 103. So let's do the same thing. I'm setting up another encoder, and I'm going to do MIDI CC 103. And I got to make sure that I'm outputting on MIDI channel 4. But now watch what happens. When I turn one knob, they're both moving. That's not what I want. I don't want one knob to control both of them. I want the one on the left to control the decay and the other one to control the low cut. So in this case, I need to go back to the menu right here and see how it's set on EC all. So I need to hold that, and I need to not set the encoder to all channels. So I'm going to set them to two separate ones. So this one on the right, I'm going to set to encoder channel 2, and the one on the left, I'm going to set to encoder 1. So now those are two completely separate channels that they're outputting on. So let's go back into the preset editor. And now on this first one for encoder all channels, I don't want it to be all channels. I want it to just be on encoder channel 1. And the second one, I want to be just on encoder channel 2. So now encoder channel 1 will control CC 102, and encoder channel 2 will control controller change 103. If you're getting a headache, it's because you're doing MIDI programming. I've done this for years. I still get MIDI headaches, but this is pretty cool. And you can see now the left one just controls the decay, and the one on the right just controls the low cut. And that's pretty cool. Okay, next up is using it with an expression pedal. Here's just a super cheap one that I've reviewed that I found on Amazon, and it worked really well with this. So my goal with this is to control the mix of the plate reverb on my HX Stomp, and that's going to be with MIDI CC 104. That's my goal. So I have this going out of the expression pedal into TRS input 1. So I need to configure TRS 1 for expression pedal input. Remember, those TRS ports can be inputs or outputs. So I need to go to TRS press 1, I need to set that as an expression input. You also do have some configurations that you can do here, like the linear curve and the sensitivity. You can invert it into heel and toe if it's off for some reason. But the most important thing to do is you want to calibrate. And this is great because all you have to do is just calibrate it, move it up and down so it knows what the minimum and maximum value are, and it automatically sets it. Very, very cool. Very easy. I love that. So let's go back. I'm going to program preset 5 here just because I haven't programmed anything in this preset yet. Let's add a message. And in this case, expression. And am I doing an expression CC, clock, or control voltage? In this case, it's going to be a MIDI CC, and the number is going to be 104 on MIDI channel 4. So now when I move it, you can see that it is working and I'm able to adjust the mix up and down. If something doesn't seem to be working, be sure to change your settings and also check the type of cable that you're using. This one does need to be with a TRS cable, so tip ring sleeve. A lot of people do this with a TS cable and they wonder why it's not working, but it should be a TRS cable. So that's how you program an expression pedal. Just a few more settings really quick. If you push this live mode, you can see in very large letters what mode you are in. So when I load the 500 miles patch or the Amarillo patch, you can see it in very large letters. That is an option, but there is also this hidden one, not really hidden, but you have to click up here in setlist mode to enable it. And now you have setlist library and song library. So you can have multiple different set lists, up to 120 different set lists. And within each of those set lists, you can have different songs. So this is a pretty cool feature. I'm going to show you kind of the way that I would kind of consider doing this. So I went in here and I made the same 3 songs. I just named them. You just do that by holding it and then hitting rename song. So I could call this one 24 Karat Magic or something like that. But let's say I want to go into the song 500 Miles and I'm going to open the song. And you can see I have all these slots right here. I'm not sure exactly what they're called. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click this first one. And just to keep this from being confusing, I'm just going to go to like a different bank. And I'm going to say this first one I want to use preset 11. I'm going to confirm that. This next one, I'm going to do preset 12. This next one will be preset 80. And this next one will be preset 10. And the last one will be 74. No real order. You'll see why here in a second. So my logic with this is within the song 500 Miles, I would need to send 5 different patch changes, right? I'd want to load preset 11 for the intro, 12 for the chorus, 80 for verse 2, or something like that. So I'm just getting some of the presets in the order that I need them to go in the song. Verse, chorus, bridge, outro, or however you want to think about it. That would be my logic here. And again, I can add a bunch more in here too if I wanted to. So now I have 8 different parts that I'm going to go through in the song 500 Miles. So this is the way that I would program the buttons to work in song mode. But you go to your devices and for example, I'm going to go to the foot switch pedals and you can see they're programmed a little bit differently, but you have these down and up arrows. So if I'm in the song 500 Miles, I can push this to scroll down to the next preset. So I would consider that the next part of the song. So now I just have to push the down button whenever I want to change something, and it's automatically going to go scroll down to the next patch. If I overstepped or something like that and I need to go back, I can always push the up arrow and I can go back to some of the different presets. Well, this is pretty cool. If I had intro, verse, chorus, bridge, and so on and so forth in a song, then I just have to push one button and it scrolls through those patches per those songs. And in this case, I would also set this button right here to be go to the next song and this one right here to go to the previous song. That is also an option. And I'm going to just set these middle ones to none because I don't want to accidentally hit them. But now when I'm in the 500 Miles song, I can scroll through my patches. But you can see I could go to the next song. And again, for bad touch, I could also have it programmed to go through all these patches throughout the song, and I can select them by going down and up. And something else that's really cool is if I'm on the last patch in this song, instead of going to the next song, which I can do, or I can just hit down and it goes to the next song anyways. Pretty cool. There's a lot of different options with this thing. It's very versatile. And then, yeah, you would have different set lists. So that was all within set list 1. So I could call this like my main set, and then the set list 2, I would put in different songs into set list 2, and so on and so forth. Pretty cool and pretty helpful. And last but not least, we also have the relay plus CV. So you have relay in and CV in, and then you have the out ports on the top. And this one does need 9 volts of power. Video is already getting long enough, and I don't really have anything to control this with. But just so you know, you can set that up. So if I set that into TRS 3 or something like that, I'd want to set the mode to either be relay out adapter or CV adapter out, just depending on how you wanted to use it. But man, they have so many options with this thing. As far as the pricing, you can see all of it on your screen. So the M1 is $150 and the M2 is $240. And you have a couple of different bundles that you can get. So if you want it with the XY pad or the EC controller, it's only about $20 more. You also do have the 6-button and the 10-button foot switch. If you plan to use it wired, you can save 20 bucks, but if you want the wireless ones, it's just 20 bucks more. And the EC controller or the relay control voltage adapter or the XY controller are all currently listed at about 30 bucks. And they were also kind enough to offer a discount to my subscribers. If you use promo code ScottYuleMusic at checkout, you will get 5% off your entire purchase. I'll have links to that down below. It's so crazy how much you can do with this MIDI controller. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I feel like I didn't even go truly as deep as you can with a controller like this. It's so versatile. All the inputs and outputs, all the settings that you can do. I love the idea that you can just use this as just a standalone MIDI foot controller because it is so nice that you can program it all on a touchscreen. You don't have to connect to an app or a computer in order to make adjustments on the fly. I love that about it. On top of the fact, if you need more versatility with it, you can expand on it with some of these controllers or the foot switches or the relay switch and stuff like that. As a MIDI nerd, this is one of the coolest systems that I've used, and it's so cool how versatile it is. So I did find one glitch with it, and it was with the expression pedal, where it was if it was on a different screen, it wouldn't send the full MIDI messages. I did reach out to them to let them know, and they instantly responded saying that they were going to fix that. So that is really cool that they're willing to update something. With how much versatility this thing is, it's pretty impressive that I only found one glitch with it. And also with the USB output, so that USB-A output, I tried connecting that to my HX Stomp as well as my Sheeran Looper Plus. Both of those accept MIDI messages over USB. However, I could not get those to work, and I did reach out and they said that is correct. The USB MIDI is only able to work currently with devices that have a USB input that is dedicated only to MIDI. So the HX Stomp and the Sheeran Looper, they use the USB ports for MIDI as well as for audio. So as of right now, it's not working. However, they are working on an update that is going to allow it to work with those devices. Speaking of updates, they've already done some by the time that I've been editing this video. So the Bluetooth feature has actually already been updated as well. And this is really cool. You can connect up to 6 other Bluetooth MIDI devices if you set it to central mode. Now peripheral mode is basically what I had it as originally, but with central mode, you can connect it over to 6 other MIDI devices, which is really cool. They updated something called the analog clock tap output. I'm not even sure I understand that completely. They also said that OSC support is coming soon. And I'm going to have to read this. They also said each controller will have 12 action banks, which can be changed independently or in sync with preset banks. What I love about this is how much they're constantly updating this. They're always adding new improvements to it. And with how easy it is to update the firmware, that's a really cool feature. But I love this MIDI controller. I'm going to keep using it. And anytime that update comes out, I'll try to leave a comment, a pinned comment, or something in the description to let you know what has been updated. I also forgot to mention that there's also a way to back up your device, which is really cool. You can send a backup so you don't lose any data. They also have a feature where the manual is right there under your settings. So if you forget or you need help setting up something, you don't even have to connect to a computer. The manual is right there in this thing. It's just such a well thought out system. I'm really impressed with this product. And again, if it's something that you're interested in, I'll leave links down below. And they are also kind enough to do a discount code to my subscribers for 5% off if you use promo code ScottYuleMusic. If you guys did find this video helpful, don't forget to do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. It truly does help support the channel, feed the YouTube algorithm gods, and recommend my videos to more people, so I would appreciate it. And also, like I said, I am going to do a giveaway to one of my subscribers. So I have these 2 boxes. So in those boxes, I'm actually going to give away to one of my subscribers. I'm going to give away the M1 with the 10-button wireless foot switch, along with the EC controller, and also with the Relay CV switch as well. So you're going to get all of those. In order to win the giveaway, 2 things. One, you have to be a subscriber. So if you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. And then second, you have to leave a comment down below using the magic phrase. You can say whatever you want down in the comment section down below, just as long as at some point you say the magic phrase, Super Mario Kart. You only have 24 hours to enter the contest, and I will announce the winner on this date right here. Please just remember, I have to say this in all my videos, but I will never ask you for money, period, for these giveaways. Never. Not for shipping or anything like that. Sometimes scammers show up when I do these giveaways. If anyone messages you, says that they're me, and then they start asking you for money, that is a scammer. 100%. I will not ask you for money for these giveaways, period. Please do not respond to scammers. So thank you guys again for watching. If you are interested, I did release a video somewhat recently about a MIDI to DMX converter. If you are looking to have a way to control DMX lights with MIDI, you can check out that video. And also, if you want to find the main app that I use for like backing tracks and stuff like that this is going to pair really well with if you want to trigger that app. I use Stage Tracks 3 personally, and I have a 4-part video series, which you can check out the first video in the series by clicking the link on your screen now. Thank you guys again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at ScottYuleMusic. Also, if you have any other cool gear that you've seen that you want me to check out, please let me know. Again, many thanks to the subscriber who let me know about this product. Thank you guys again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.